Hey, this is Principal Bob, the Electric Principal, and today we got a video that's going to go through the 15 plus one, couldn't keep it to 15, things your dealership should have told you when you purchased your car. And I could have made this video 60. There's a lot of stuff going on in these things. And so I picked out 15 things that I thought might be A, the most useful, or B, something that was maybe overlooked in your original delivery. So we're going to go through those things, and I'm going to make sure that that you can just pick out the ones that you want at the bottom. You'll be able to go through the video, so you don't have to watch all 16, 15 plus 1, if you don't want to. So we're going to get this started, and away we go. Hey, right now we're going to take a couple of minutes to talk about the number one thing that everybody should know when they purchase their EV in terms of using it on a daily basis and charging, and that is don't charge it to 100%, because what happens is, people don't realize this, but a battery from 10% to 80% charges pretty quickly, especially in one of these babies. They charge very quickly in an IONIQ 5 or 6. But when you hit 80%, things tend to slow down a little bit. And what people don't realize is they'll spend a lot more time sitting at that charger. And when you're sitting at that charger, folks, that means other people can't use that charger. And so, you know, it just making the entire EV world more efficient, charge to 80%. When you're at a fast charger, and then try to get away with not charging it any further. Now, obviously, there are times when you have to charge to a little higher level. You just have to. You know, you aren't going to make it to the next place without doing that. But far and wide, most people don't need to do that. For some reason, I know it's a security blanket, but it just mucks the whole thing up and slows us down. So I'm going to demo that real quickly here. You know, right now I have got IONIQ 5 Limited, and I'm at 45% battery. And what I'm going to do is we're going to hook this up to a level 3 charger. Now, it's not the fastest charger. You know, when things get going here, we'll be at about 82 kilowatts on this charge point, because it's not a super quick charger, but good enough. And then what we'll do is we're going to take a look at what happens when I want to charge the car to 80%, how much time it's going to take, versus charging this car to 100% from 45% starting point. So stay tuned here. I'm going to go plug this car in, and I'll be right back, and we'll take a look and see what's going to happen here. But I tell you what, the first thing we'll do is we'll set the charging up in the car. And once again, very simple to do, right? Click on the 45. We're going to click on the battery again. And right now, I've already got this car preset to 80%. So I'm going to go out in the rain here and plug in. And we'll see how long this takes. All right. So we just plugged in the car, and I'm just going to shut this off for a moment, and we're going to take a look and see what information we get. Okay, right now, to get to 80%, it's saying 58 minutes, but that's because we really haven't ramped up yet. As you can see, the speed is increasing quickly, and we're going to be in over 80 kilowatts in no time at all. And now we've got this down to 19 minutes, which is a very reasonable time to charge when you think about the fact that, you know, we're at the top of what this charger can do at this particular time. But when we turn the car on, I'm going to just do that for a second. And what we're going to do is we're going to see kind of what happens to the vehicle when I switch that from 80% to 100. So right now it's 19 minutes, but when I reach over and just touch that to 100, that 19 minutes just became 46 minutes. I mean, that's an incredible amount of time to sit here in charge compared to what I had when I have it at 80%. You know, it drops it right down to a much more reasonable time. And, if we don't really need to charge to 100%, if there's people here waiting in line, they're going to wait a lot longer. If I was a polite person, I would just charge it to 80 unless I really needed it. And I know that with Hyundais, we get 2 years of free electricity, but just, be cognizant of the fact that we share these chargers with a lot of other people, and we're trying to make electric cars work for everyone. And so the best thing you can do is, stop charging at 80% and don't take so long. So I'm going to take my 45-minute charge and I'm going to just turn that back into what is now an 18-minute charge. And I'll be happier. The car will be happier because I'm not charging it to 100%. And the people waiting in line will be much happier if we just go ahead and do that. Hey, we're going to take a minute or two here to talk a little bit about utility mode. And that's something a lot of people, when they're looking at IONIQ 5s, they really don't know much about. And utility mode is very simple. It's when you're parking your car for a long time, and maybe you're camping, or you're in your driveway and you want to run a speaker system out the back of the car. What you can do is turn on utility mode, and what that does is keep the big battery going. So you can use your power outlet that might be in your car inside, like if you have a limited, or you can use the V2L on the outside of the car, plug it in, and use that power for hours and hours and hours. And I mean, plug it in, use it for 25 hours, no problem. With almost a 78 kilowatt battery, it's not difficult to do. So let's just talk a second about how we get into utility mode. It's really not that difficult. And by the way, if you're parked for any length of the time, it sure beats leaving the car in accessory mode, right? A lot of people will just tap the EV start button here and we'll get the car going, but you're going to notice it says accessory in the middle of the screen. Oh, you're using the small battery, and you don't want to use a small battery because it's a lousy 12-volt little battery like your car battery, and it's not lithium ion. You can lower that battery down to a level where when you continually do that and then raise the level up when the big battery kicks in and the orange light glows on the top of the dash, it's not easy on the battery. So utility mode is the way to go. So how do I get in utility mode? Well, I just simply start the car up. I push the start button, I hold it down for half a second, I get the ready to drive light, right? And that's one of the secrets of IONIQ 5 or 6 is hold that start button down for a quarter of a second and let things get going here. And then all I need to do is go into my menus here, and I can just go into setup and I can hit EV, all right? And then what I'm going to do is hit utility mode right here. I'm just going to touch it. And then I'm going to have a choice at the top, activate utility mode. So I just tap that, and there's a blue light that goes on. And you know that your car now is using the big battery. Go plug your stuff in, have fun. And let the car power it, even when you're not in the car, using the car. Now, if I try to drive away when I'm in utility mode, the car's not going to let me, right? Shifting conditions not met, right? You get that when you really haven't got the car ready to go. And the way you turn off utility mode, you could tap the button up here and nothing's going to happen, right? I mean, that doesn't work. So how do I turn off utility mode? I simply shut down the EV. Hit the EV off, I put my foot back on, I turn the EV on, and now I'm going to get that ready light again, and I am ready to drive anywhere I want, and utility mode is off. So use utility mode, especially if you're going to sit at a charger for a while and charge your car and run things, and use the big battery. It just works better, and you're going to have better results. And I think you're going to do well with your small 12-volt battery when you use this more often and not just run that thing down. Because if I got one gripe with Hyundai, it's that they didn't put a lithium-ion battery in there, and they used just a standard battery, and that they cheaped out on it, but you know what? I mean, no electric car is perfect. I've owned a lot of them. I'll tell you that. I got gripes with every one of them. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is hot buttons. We've got some shortcuts in the car that I really like to show customers because I think it makes driving a lot easier. And they're really simple to use. You just simply press this star button and hold it down. And I turn this hot button into the EV screen by touching this. And all that means is that if I'm in some menu, I'm listening to the blend, which I would never listen to an XM. If I'm there, all I have to do when I'm going down the highway is touch that star button once, and now I've got my electric vehicle screen that's going to show me 80% of the battery left, how many miles I've got, 201 left, because I'm running air conditioning at 68 and 70 right now, and 215 miles left. And I like that screen. It's a useful screen. It tells me the closest charger in case there was an emergency. But you're ready to go with that. So it's a useful feature. The other feature I like in this car that people don't normally know about is it gives you a map when you need it, and it will show you the range of your car. All right, and so there's a couple ways to do this. So when you're in the map mode, if we just touch map here, you're going to see that right now I've got a menu button down here as well. And if I touch that button, it's going to give me the option of the EV range right here. So two ways to get to it. The way I normally do it when I'm driving, though, is just to touch this map button and touch right up here, and boom, I've got that. Now, I wish we would improve this a little bit and show you how the range changes based on altitude that you're going to go. Because, guys, if I'm going to head west on this map, I'm going to hit a bunch of mountains. I'm going up to 12,000 feet, and my range is not going to be like this. That's one of the things that Audi VW does really well. They give you this blob that takes that into account. One of the nice features of this range map is that, you can, of course, adjust the range, but what I like about it is if I touch the middle of it and I draw a line down, right, to a point where I want to go to Denver, for example, and I put that right dead center, it's going to give me the exact mileage it's going to take me to get there. So that's a really handy feature, right? So if I'm heading over here, I know that Limon is 109 miles, I think that's how you pronounce it, from where I am right now. So that's a little feature that most people don't know about. And the further you go into this map, you're going to start to be able to pick out points or cities and really get an accurate position of where you're going to head to. So that's another little nice feature of the range map that's on the IONIQ 5 and IONIQ 6. If you're going to park your car in the garage and you're going to set the car up so that it's not on time of use, many people in this country live in urban areas where the time that they can charge, the rate that they're charged changes based on when they're charging. Like right now in Fort Collins, Colorado, between 2 and 7 p.m., they're going to charge me 5 times the normal rate if I charge between 2 and 7 p.m. So that's a big difference. Now, mind you, in Colorado, electricity is really inexpensive here, particularly in Fort Collins. It's like 7 cents or 8 cents a kilowatt, depending on where you're living off peak. So it's important, though, that you know when on peak is going to happen. And so the way to do that is, once again, I go to the main menu here. I can go to the EV menu, and then what I can do is I can schedule a departure time. I'm just going to do this quickly to get me to the menu, right? So if I go 8 a.m. is my departure time, and that's going to be tomorrow, which is Tuesday. I click OK. Here I am. I've got departure time set, and I'm ready to go, okay? And the other thing I can do now is go back to I can set departure times when I've got time of use selected. If I've got that selected, I can go back, touch the button. Now it's going to allow me to schedule off-peak time. Now, right now, what I'm going to do is touch that gear. And what I want is, I want the start time when I can charge to be 7 p.m., right? Because that's the end of it. And I want the end time to be 2 p.m. So we're going to go touch that, 2 p.m. And prioritize, I'm going to charge only during off-peak times, all right? And so now I've got it set. When it starts, when it ends, I'll click on that. And now I'm going to save myself a lot of money when I've got my departure time set, because I am not going to be charging during those peak times. That's going to cost me a lot more. And so that's an excellent feature that I use on a daily basis, because if I don't do that, Roberta's going to charge during that time, and it's going to cost us more money, and we don't want to do that. The other thing I'm going to talk about today is regen. You have got multiple levels of regen. I see a lot of people pull in, or they get a car. They have no concept that they've got more than one mode of regen, or two, because that's what it is in most cars, right? It's either on or it's off, kind of like VW. On, you turn on B mode to VW, it's on, and it's not enough regen for me, or you turn it off, right? Well, Hyundai didn't do that. They gave you basically 16 modes of regen. And what I mean by that is that that if you put your car in gear, I'm going to put the auto hold on here real quick, and I put my car in gear, I can just flip through this by we're going to turn that off so we're not beeping away. By the way, this is one of the most useful buttons on the planet, because when your car's beeping away, when you're in a parking spot like this, it lets you turn off all the beeping. But back to regen. Now I've got full use of regen just sitting here. I can show you, I can go to level 2, level 1, or up to level I-pedal, right? I mean, all the way on is I-pedal. And that's great. But you also got auto mode, and that's if I take the right paddle and I just press that in for a second, it switches to auto. And now I've got 4 more levels of auto regen. Auto regen is awesome, folks. It really is. It smooths the car out, because a lot of people love I-pedal, but boy, when you drive in them, they're not very good. They think it's great. But it's not. The car's going forward and backward, and they can't understand why all the kids are car sick. Well, auto smooths everything out. Like when you're on the highway, it takes the regen off when you're at highway speeds. You don't even feel the car slowing down because regen's on. It's a pretty awesome setting, and if you've never used it, you should. And it's one of my main points of why I like Hyundais, because they have multiple levels of regen. And then this auto regen, you got 3 more levels in the car itself that you can choose from to run the regen. So let me just put the car in park here real quick. I'm still in setup menu. I can just click on EV. I can go down to smart regeneration system here. Now look, so not only have I got auto, right, but I can choose a strong, a medium, or a slow deceleration, a smooth deceleration. You got choices. So with 4 settings in auto, and then you can adjust that with 3 more settings here. That's a lot of choices. And so that's something that a lot of people don't know about after they buy a Hyundai, or I should say Hyundai, let's do it right, or a Kia product. The car comes with battery preconditioning, right? Battery preconditioning is something everybody should know about. It's really simple to operate. And the reason we have battery preconditioning is because it's cold in Colorado and places like Wisconsin, and you get up and it's 20 degrees and you forgot to plug in your car. So your battery's low, but you got a 300-mile trip to make today. And so what you want to do is drive to a DC fast charger, as some people say level 3, it's really DC fast charger. And you want your battery warm when you get there. Now, even if you drive 20 miles with a cold battery, it doesn't warm up all that much. It really doesn't. You won't see a big difference when you get to a nice Electrify America DC fast charger or a Tesla charger with a Magic Dock. But what really helps is we have battery conditioning mode, right? So long as I'm in the EV setup area and I can just push battery conditioning mode, I know it's on. That allows me to warm up that battery before I get there. And all I have to do is as follows. I just go to Nav. Let's say I'm going to search the nearby points of interest. I'm going to go to EV charging stations. All right, there we go. And, this is going to show me all of the charging stations that are close. Now, I've already used the filter up here to select that I don't want to see my home styles chargers, level 2 chargers, because really, if I'm looking for a charger outside of my house, I want a DC fast charger. So I've got that selected. I'm going to go back a step. And now let's say I was going to go head north. I'm heading north to Cheyenne, Wyoming, which does have an Electrify America, from Fort Collins, Colorado. But I'm going to stop on the way, and I'm going to stop in Wellington, where there's a good charging station there that's run by ChargePoint. And, if I can't use Electrify America, I choose ChargePoint because they always work. They're really, really good chargers. So I highly recommend that you do that. And so when I click on Come and Go in Wellington, it's 15.2 miles away, directly north from me. I'm going to set that as my destination where I'm going to go. And the car is going to realize that battery conditioning is selected. And if the battery is below 70 degrees, it's going to start that. In real life here, my battery just turned to a coil. The little symbol of the battery just turned to a coil. And that's letting me know that right now my battery is preconditioning it and I'm going to warm it up because, man, it feels like it's September day today. It's cold and kind of rainy out. We've had 100-degree temperatures here almost every day for 3 or 4 solid weeks. And today the high is going to be 67, so my kind of weather. But that's why that coil is on, because it's going to preheat that battery to get it up to temperature so that when I get to that DC fast charger, I'm charging rather quickly. We're going to talk a little bit about the modes, right? You've got 3 modes or 4 modes in your car. If you click on the mode button, we go through them. One of those modes is Eco mode. And we're going to talk a little bit about Eco mode right now because a lot of people don't really understand it. Eco mode saves you as much electricity as it can by running just the back motor. That's what it tends to do. It just uses the front motor for just briefly starting the car, and then pretty much it shuts it off. And it does save energy. I mean, and a lot of my drivers are not interested in 0 to 60. They're interested in saving energy. They really are. But what they don't like about Eco mode is that when you're in Eco mode, the car will not heat up as much as you need it on a 10-degree day because the car's busy trying to save energy. And if it's 100 degrees out and you're in Eco mode, well, you can't get that car cool enough. And so I get calls all the time from people saying, hey, Bob, I love the car, except in the winter, I'm freezing to death. Well, that's because you haven't selected that you don't want the heating and cooling system to be altered in Eco mode. And the way I kind of feel about that is, you can do that yourself. If you're running low on energy and you need to save energy, you can, on a really cold day, you can turn the heat down to 62 or 63, use your heated steering wheel and your seats and save a ton of energy. I don't need the car doing that for me because when I lend the car to somebody else or my girl is driving that car, she's not going to be happy. Let's put it that way. So how do we get to that on the screen? Well, it's real simple. We go to that home menu. We're going to do that real quick. We're going to slide over to Setup. Then I'm going to touch Vehicle. All right, and then when I get in Vehicle, now I can alter the climate. And if I hit Climate here, it's going to show me on the very bottom of the list, climate features. And I'm going to just click on that. And now all of a sudden I get this option of I can deselect the climate control mode in eco. And that means the climate system will run like it normally does, no matter what mode you're in. You'll be comfortable, and that won't drive you crazy. All right. So that's one of the things I make sure that anybody who's buying or we're delivering an IONIQ 5 or 6 to knows about that. So turn off that mode. Now the other option is that I tell people is when you're in drive modes here, you can just choose normal mode. And, you know, normal mode is great because if you are easy on the accelerator, you're not hammering the thing, pretty much it just uses the rear motor and pretty much it'll save you energy. You know, but you've got that option when you need to get on that expressway because a truck is coming up, you know, behind you and you're trying to merge onto the freeway. You've got that power when you really step on it. So that's another way to save energy. And it's something for you to think about. The other thing when it comes to energy saving is that, you know, people think iPedal is necessarily always the best for saving energy because you do all your braking using regen. But, you know, when you're in iPedal, you've got both motors connected. You've got regen from all four wheels. And so there's some debate with people about whether that actually saves more energy than simply using level 3 and using a normal mode. So I don't know the answer to that, but it's something you can try out for yourself. And it's something I'm going to be playing with in the near future. So let's take a few minutes to talk about the semi-autonomous driving system and what these buttons do, because a lot of people get confused about them. So I'm going to make this really simple. You've got this master switch right here, and that button, if I press it once, you're going to see a steering wheel appear on the main screen. And when you're going down the road, you'll see that turn green when the conditions are met, and the car will drive itself. You have to have your hands on the wheel, but it will drive itself. It will steer around curves. Now, you know, would I use that going through Donner Pass? No, in California, because it's too tight it turns. But it does assist, and it does a very nice job. It's kind of a multi-switch, because if I press that button again and hold it down, and the lane assist all of a sudden disappears. And if I press that again, the lane assist appears. And so when you've got this all set and you've got both of them available when you're starting out on your trip, then when you're up to driving speed, all you're going to do is turn on the cruise control, and you're going to do that by just tapping this button right here. All right. And now when I'm sitting still, it's not going to do anything. But when I'm on the highway and I touch that button, cruise control is going to kick in. The whole screen lights up, and you know that you're in semi-autonomous driving. And the nice thing about this is you can turn off any one of these features anytime with just your thumb. So you have a lot of control over what you're doing. And so when you've got cruise control on and you're locked in cruise control, if you touch the brake, it all shuts down, right? I mean, because it's going to stop using cruise control just like on any car. I mean, that's no mystery. But what I can do is just take the button right on the wheel here and press it in, and I hit resume, and I'm back going right back up to speed where I was, and cruise control is on, and it's all working for you. It's a really, really, really good system. The next thing we're going to talk a little bit about is blind spot monitoring. Hey, I don't think any car does blind spot monitoring better than the IONIQ 5 and 6, particularly the limited versions, because all you have to do is, if you're going to change lanes on the highway, if I push that in, I get a blind spot monitoring camera right there. I've also got it up on the screen in front of me because I've got a heads-up display when I'm driving an IONIQ 5. And that will show me blind spot monitoring. You'll see little red lines appear around the car when someone's in your blind spot. Plus, I'm going to get blind spot monitoring over in the mirror, because you've got that nice little triangle that's very traditional that shows you blind spot monitoring. Plus, on my screen here in front of me, when I'm using the mode, it detects the cars around me and will show me the blind spots behind the car as well. So literally, there are 5 different ways it's going to tell you someone's in your blind spot. And you've got an auto feature, right? That when you shift lanes and you take turn the left turn signal on and you're going to go into the next lane, the car does it for you automatically, unless somebody's in your blind spot. Then it doesn't do it. So, you know, I tell people all the time, if you hit somebody in your blind spot, an IONIQ 5, you tried. You ignored every warning on the face of the earth, and you were trying to hit somebody. So don't go to court and say that the guy that you hit in your blind, it wasn't your fault. It's your fault. There's just no doubt about it. Because this car has told you every which way who's in your blind spot, and that it's not a really good idea to change lanes. If I'm in map mode or I'm anything else, you're going to see this window appear here, right next to it. Any mode will have it, right? You can turn that off by just clicking there, and then you've just got one screen telling you what's going on. But if you click this on, a lot of people don't realize that, oh, we've got multiple screens here, right? I've got my EV battery range, or I can put a clock in there, or I can swipe it again. I got a compass, and if I don't like that compass, I can reach over and hit that button, and I've got a different compass or a third compass, right? And more importantly, if I've got the car up and running, it's going to tell me my elevation, which is so important when you drive an EV, because you want to know when you're going to be driving uphill. I always check on an unfamiliar route that I'm going, what's the elevation of the place I'm going to? Because if that's 3,000 feet higher, I'm going to use a lot more fuel. And so this is something that gives you a lot of choices. It's right there for you. It's lightning quick. You just flip it and it goes. And it's one of the features that a lot of people don't know about on the IONIQ 5 or IONIQ 6. Another feature that I want to show you is the ability to look at how much energy the car is currently using, as well as, you know, what your miles per kilowatt hour has been in the past. And this car does a nice job of showing you both those items, but the menus are just a little bit hidden. So how would I get to that information? Well, if I just go to the main screen, and anytime I see the car with the battery, I could just touch that battery. And we're going to go to the electric vehicle stats here, but you're going to notice that when I touch that battery again, not only do I have access to charging this car to a particular percentage, I've got these 3 bars up here. And anytime you see 3 bars up here, folks, that's letting you know there's more menus behind it. And so one of those menus is electricity use. I'm going to reach over and touch that. And you could see right now, obviously we're not moving, so the drivetrain is using nothing. You're going to look at climate, and you know, I've got the temperature set to 63 degrees on the passenger side and about 72 here on the driver's side. But you're going to look and see that we are using a 0.5 kilowatt hour per hour. That's about it. To run the air conditioning in this car, that's all you're using. And in the winter, you might use 1 or 2 kilowatts per hour when you've got the heater on. Why is that important? Well, a lot of people don't realize it, but you know, if you've got an 80 kilowatt battery, actually 78 kilowatts, a little bit under, let's say you have 50 kilowatts left. Well, you know, according to this thing, I could pretty much run this car for a long time without any problem. Now the electronics, you can see, are using 0.31 kilowatt hours per hour. So let's just round this all up to 1 kilowatt per hour right now, just sitting here doing nothing. Well, folks, I mean, with a 50% battery, I've got 40 hours worth of energy to use practically. And I could run this car for 40 hours without running that main battery out. Because, there is a ton of energy in these batteries that can be used for heating and cooling. So that's one of the cool features that I like to see how much energy I'm using, particularly in the winter, or show you the difference between when you have your heater set to 78 degrees in the winter versus 68. You'll get an instant readout about how much energy you're using. And that works well. And the other thing you can do is, if I come back here, I'm just going to touch this again. So if I reach up and touch that and I'm on EV economy history, it's going to tell me how much energy I've been using for each of my last drives. There's that, the energy consumption has been pretty high. Today, for example, is a 19, it's 1.2. Well, I've spent a lot of time sitting here with the air conditioning on, going nowhere in the last mile. So I'm using a lot of energy. But this will give you an idea of how you're doing with your energy use. Another item that I want to make sure you know how to do is that in the winter or in the summer, heating and cooling uses up a lot of energy. And one of the things you can do, it's a simple little tip, is that if you touch the climate control switch right here, you're going to get this particular screen in front of you. And one of the most useful things on this particular screen is right here, driver only. If you touch that, it'll cut the air conditioning or heating off for the seat next to you. And that works well to save energy. There's no reason why we should be heating or cooling the seat next to us when it's empty. All right, another factor that I want to show you is that, eco mode is a wonderful thing, right? Eco mode can save energy. Most of the time you're just using the rear motor. The acceleration is slower. But one of the other things eco mode does is that when you're in it, it will, unfortunately, limit your heating and cooling. So if it's a 15-degree day and you're in eco mode, and you want to heat that car up to 75 or 76, you may not be able to do that because it's going to limit how much energy you're using. And a lot of people don't recognize it. I get tons of phone calls in the winter saying, you know what, Bob, I'm freezing. The car just isn't warm enough. Well, that's because you've got eco mode on, and you can drive in eco mode, but one of the things that you can do is simply turn that one specific part of eco mode off so that it's not artificially saving electricity by limiting your ability to cool or heat the car. And, you could do that on your own. You kind of figure if you're running out of energy, I don't need the car to do that because I'm simply going to turn down on a cold day. I'm not going to have the car at 82 degrees on a cold day when I'm trying to save energy because I'm running out of fuel. I'm just going to turn it down to 65, make sure my heated steering wheel is on, and make sure that my heated seat is on, and I'm going to be just fine, and I'm going to save energy. So how do I set that up so that eco mode isn't robbing me of the cooling or heating that I want? Well, I simply go to the main menu, and I'm going to hit Setup, and then I'm going to hit Vehicle. And what will happen is I'm going to go down here to where it says Climate and touch that. And at the very bottom, where it says Climate Features, I'm just going to touch that. And I can turn this mode off by simply pressing that and deselecting it. It's going to remove that portion of eco mode. And so I can drive in eco mode and not worry about getting too cold or too warm. And so that's a really simple way to do it. When I deliver cars to people or when I'm talking to people and working with them after they purchased a car, whether that's in Fort Collins or out of state, I always show people that mode because let's face it, I want people to be comfort and they can make those decisions on their own. They don't need the car to make those decisions for them. Another item that I want to show you is the ability to get instant HD radar right out of the car, no matter where you are. And when you're driving, this is useful, especially if you're in Colorado or Texas or places where all of a sudden hail can sneak up on you and you want to really see what's going on. And it's simple. We just go to the main menu, we touch the house here, we get right to the correct screen, we look at HD radio data, and we touch Doppler radar. And as soon as you do that, you're going to see the rainfall, snowfall, you name it, it shows you what's going on. And it's instantaneous. And that is really good, because if I'm seeing a lot of red circles on here and I'm seeing a purple and I know things are going to go south in a hurry, I'm heading for the nearest bank and pulling under their little cover over the teller areas to keep my car from being hail damaged. As a matter of fact, I did that the last time I was in Texas, in Austin. There was a huge storm coming up. I looked on the radar, saw where it was coming, and that's exactly what I did. One of the other features that you ought to know regarding the IONIQ 5 and 6 is that inside the rear here, there is an emergency charge cable release. Now, I've never used this on my IONIQ 5. I don't use it very often on any car, except maybe my early e-tron, way back in the day. But for the most part, if you know and understand how that system works, you shouldn't ever have an issue of having a charger stuck to the charging port. But if that ever happens, or things just aren't going right that particular day and you need to get that charging cable off, the way to do that is if you reach around here, you can turn this and pull that out, and then what you're going to have here is just a tiny little cable in here that you could just give a slight tug to. Don't rip this thing, because man, oh man, you can cause some damage if you pull that really hard. I don't think these systems are all that robust. They're meant for emergency use only. So just give it a gentle tug, maybe an inch or two, and your charging cord will release and you won't have a problem. Hey, thanks so much for watching my video today. I hope you learned something. I always thought if I went to a conference or I read a book or I learned something new, if a couple of things stuck with me that were useful, I thought it was worth my time. So I hope this video was worth your time. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep going and doing the stuff that I do. And I really appreciate you driving electric cars and learning more about those cars. We'll see you next time.